Hello and welcome to another week of Daily Devotions as we talk about seeing hope in the world in this Advent week of looking for the hope of God as we prepare for the birth of Christ. Well, I wonder if you've ever been away from a place you've loved, been away from home, been away from some place that's nostalgic for you for years, and then had the joy of that homecoming, of coming to something that was familiar, that brought you great joy. I think of GIs coming back from the Second World War and the ticker tape parades and dancing in the streets and kissing their sweethearts and moving from a time of painful war and anxiety to a time of home building and community and baby booming and all the things that come together in a different chapter of life that is filled with hope for a new tomorrow, and a tomorrow devoid of world wars. Well, the people of Israel, as you read about in the text that we have this week, "Comfort, O comfort my people," from the prophet Isaiah, chapter 40. And he dares to speak a word of comfort to a people who are living in exile, who have been taken over 700 miles from their home, walked but chained, many of them dying along the way, and now have spent upwards of 50 years, a whole generation dying, all longing to go back home. And Isaiah begins to say, your time of waiting is coming to an end. This enduring of this what feels like punishment from God, being exiled and captive in Babylon, is about to finish. And God's making a road, prepare the way. And where does that road lead? That road leads home. Home to our homes, to our vineyards, to our city of Jerusalem, to the temple, at least what was left of it. And there's some beautiful pieces in the books of Daniel and Ezra, Nehemiah, and Lamentations even, about this period of Israel's history, about the hope of going home. It reminds me of a story of Nelson Mandela, who, after 27 years of being in prison as a political prisoner, state criminal during apartheid in South Africa, as the doors of Robben Island, his last prison site, were opened, a place where he'd spent over 22 years, breaking rocks, lime that had blinded him, much of his time in solitary confinement because they considered his being able to talk to other prisoners, filling their heads with ideas of freedom and a new South Africa as dangerous. So they kept him isolated for much of that time. And he said, on that, recalling that first moment when the gates opened and families were invited into the prison for the first time since he'd been in prison, 27 years. He said, "I heard a strange sound. And at first I could not place what it was. I knew it was familiar to me. I knew I had heard it before. But in 27 years I had not heard it." And it was the cry of a baby. And the baby was my granddaughter. One of them. He said, "It was such a powerful thing that this young woman came up to me who I didn't know because she was the baby's age when I was arrested. She was my daughter, but I hadn't seen her since she was an infant. And the joy, and at the same time the sadness, of knowing this is my girl, and she has a family of her own, and a life that she has been living, that I've known nothing of, because all the communications, all the correspondence were edited, many of them thrown out as another way of psychological imprisonment." And he said the idea that somehow we could have this new relationship forward, this new beginning, outside of the prison, the doors swinging wide into a world that I'd been estranged from, lost upon, now free. That is a promise of hope breathed into reality. A resurrection moment, as I said on Sunday. It is the essence of God-met hope this Advent season, when so much seems off kilter. this too will come to an end, 2020. And there will be a new day. It's a promise. The prophet says, "Comfort, O comfort my people, even in the midst of dark exile, for the light is coming."